If you've been subscribed to me for a while, you might remember that I made a video on Mario's Minecraft mashup pack and why I love it so much. The map itself is filled with nostalgia to say the least, and it's actually fun to explore compared to some of the other mashup worlds and has a lot of heart put into it. Today we'll be talking about another set of DLC for another gaming icon that, well, isn't quite up to snuff. Sonic the Hedgehog seemed like a natural next step after the Pac-Man DLC for Minecraft released. However, I feel that the way they handled the Sonic DLC is really disappointing to say the least. Let's talk about that. So the Sonic DLC is essentially its own game within Minecraft, the Bedrock edition that is. With Minecraft Bedrock, there are a lot more custom worlds and such to toy around with. Generally though, I think it's becoming like Roblox where you can make some cool stuff with it, but for the most part it's pretty lackluster. The Sonic DLC is meant to be a reimagining of 3 zones from the classic trilogy: Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary. Going hand in hand, the DLC controls somewhat like a Sonic game would, though it's terribly awkward getting used to it since you still have to double tap if you want to start running to build up speed. You have access to 3 characters to start with: Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, with Amy and Shadow being unlockable characters. The selection of characters is pretty neat, though their abilities are pretty similar apart from Tails and Knuckles, who can hover and glide respectively. So the characters are mostly just there for appearance. You can't change your skin in this world for whatever reason. I will say though, I think Shadow was my favorite character to play as, since Chaos Control allows you to hover for a few seconds before charging forward. But in terms of the appearance, the designs for the Sonic skins range from actually kind of cool looking to what the heck did they do? Sonic himself is kinda derpy. They just stuck some rectangles behind his head and I guess it looks fine. Cream looks like she put on too much makeup though, and good gosh, Blaze looks more like a mouse than a cat. Then there's Silver. I'm so glad Sega finally made a Sonic-themed lineup of kitchen utensils because Silver's quills look like a freaking fork. Again though, there are some cool looking skins like Vector, and even Mecha Knuckles is here, which is surprising. But I'm sure most of you are more so wondering why exactly I don't like this DLC, and that's because the levels are just not very fun, and that's for a multitude of reasons. To be clear, I am playing on the Switch version of Bedrock, and trust me, that detail will be very important in a minute. I am like 90% sure the level design is randomly generated, sort of like a roguelike game where separate segments are stuck together in a random order to create a new area. In roguelike games that works because the gameplay is varied enough to keep things interesting, and generally speaking you don't run into the exact same rooms right next to each other, but in the Sonic DLC, they didn't create nearly enough unique level segments for each act to feel even remotely unique from one another. After the first act in every zone, you'll be able to point out which segments you saw in the last level, and eventually it will just drive you up a wall. The biggest issue is that this DLC just doesn't understand what made classic Sonic fun to begin with. Now, as I've said multiple times in the past, I am not huge on the classic trilogy by any means, but the multitude of pathways to take in most levels made replaying the games a whole lot more interesting, with the best players quickly realizing that the topmost path reaped the greatest rewards, but all of that interesting content is missing here, and in place we just get this linear hallway design. If you hated Sonic Forces, you will absolutely die if you play this game because it's just dull. Like, there's nothing of substance here. And going back to the comment I made a minute ago, the Switch version makes this even worse. You see, a funny little fun fact that I'm sure literally no one knows: Minecraft Bedrock Edition on Switch was optimized horribly, and it's really funny because I can remember a time when Mojang was touting Bedrock as being the smoother experience with chunks just fading into view, and they demonstrated this with the Switch version. Like, how do you have the goal to do something like that and then end up with this kind of stupid product? They didn't deliver even on a base level because Bedrock on Switch can have you waiting and waiting for chunks to load in for upwards of 10 to 20 seconds, and that is just multiplied with the Sonic DLC. Not just that, but the game will constantly freeze. For the most part, you'll just notice it in Chemical Plant Zone, but if you're going too fast in any of the other zones, yeah, tough luck. This is laughably bad, especially for a game that is literally about going as fast as possible by learning the level layouts. Like, you can't even do that half of the time because you're stuck waiting for the game to catch up. Rolling around at the speed of a fax machine, got places to go. Oh wait, I'm Minecraft Bedrock. Can't stick around cause the game hasn't loaded. Please load in, I just wanna play the game. And you know what? I can already sense the kinds of comments I'll be getting about the Switch being an underpowered console, and that's why the game runs so poorly, but even disregarding what I just said, Block Game runs just fine in the Legacy version. Like, there is legitimately no reason why Bedrock should run so poorly. This DLC is a frustrating reminder of one of the prime reasons why I hate Minecraft Bedrock, and it's so incredibly irritating. Like, I don't only hate Bedrock, I just don't like Minecraft updates in general anymore because they take something that was fun and shove it through a cheese grinder. I'm probably making it sound like I think the DLC is absolutely horrendous, but in all fairness, when it does function properly on Switch, I think it's mediocre at best and a lazy attempt at cashing in on some nostalgia. Especially with the Chow Garden, there's legitimately no reason for it to be in the DLC because you can look at the Chow and make them screech into your ears, but you can't play any minigames with them. And you can't throw Chow into the water. That was like the one fun thing to do in the Chow Garden. Apart from that, there's another mode called Eggman Mode, which has you play one act from every zone all in one life. But let's just say these versions of the levels run even worse on Switch because they felt the need to add in rain particles. Honestly, this is somehow worse than when I used to play Java on my old desktop PC and it would just lag horribly when it started raining. So yeah, basically after wasting about 20 minutes of my life, the game had a hissy fit and I died from slowdown. Thanks, Mojang, very epic. I went from excited for this DLC to almost immediately disappointed because I genuinely thought this would be so much more fun than it ended up being because it's just an awkward experience to say the least. If this really wasn't worth the money I spent on it, about $11 went into buying Minecoins for this DLC, and yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that again. What we have doesn't mesh well with Minecraft and doesn't have much substance to it. As a result, it ends up feeling relatively pointless. What I really wish the DLC would have been was a traditional mashup pack because the worlds in them are always fun to explore. Like, yeah, the Mario one is my favorite, but I don't want to discredit the other worlds like the Christmas and Halloween ones, and Sonic could have very easily been a similar case. I think if they wanted to have the character control like a Sonic game would, then it would have been better to have the world be built more open-ended so you could explore using Sonic or any of the other characters' movesets. Like, it would have been far more interesting than what they did here. I don't know, talking about this DLC is just getting more and more irritated as I go on. Like, I just want to play a fun Sonic game. I don't want to keep talking about this. Play Sonic 1 instead. I don't even have a funny for this video to end on. I'm just done. Goodbye.